Hello everybody, it's Delilah and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about birth. This is the third video in my Girl Talk series. I previously talked about pregnancy and miscarriage from my personal experience. So if you haven't watched those videos, I will leave those linked below. But today's topic is birth and I am getting down to the nitty-gritty here. I am not holding back. I went over to Instagram. I got you guys to ask me all kinds of questions. We're gonna take a real deep dive into birth and the truth behind it and what really happens, what really goes down. I'm excited. This should be good. I could talk about birth for a long time. Before I get into this, I just need to give you a background of what exactly my personal experience is, so from where I'm coming from. So if you've never seen my videos before, hello, my name is Delilah. I am a mother to Eloise, who is almost 3, and Theodore, who is almost 1. I live in Saskatchewan, Canada, so this whole experience is coming from a Canadian perspective with Canadian healthcare, all that kind of stuff. It depends, wherever you give birth, your experience could be totally different, but I've given birth twice and I have very unique births and labors. With my first, I was in labor for 2.5 hours. With my second, I was in labor for less than 1.5 hours. Both births were vaginal, unmedicated, and in the hospital. So everything I'm talking about today is going to be based off of my personal experience. I can't really touch on home births because I've never had that experience. I've never had a midwife. I've only ever had a doctor, but I do really enjoy my doctor. So I just want to give you a little bit of a background from my own personal experience. If you are new here, I would love it if you continue watching, maybe stick around, watch a few more, subscribe if you really want to. It really helps me out a lot when you like videos, when you comment on videos. The YouTube algorithm sees that engagement and it likes it, and I like it. So if you want to help me out, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment down below what your personal birth experience was like. Actually, no, comment down below if you have given birth before. What is one thing that happened that you were not expecting? Anyways, with that, let's just dive into this. Question number 1. What exactly do contractions feel like when they start out? 31 weeks and nervous. So for me, both experiences were actually different in terms of pain. One I felt a lot more like in my back and really low. The other was kind of like all over my belly. So my first experience, it felt a lot like period cramps at first. In fact, I kind of woke up to a weird pain just like in my side. And then as that pain grew and spread, it felt more like a period cramp, and then I realized those pains were coming and going. That's how it started with my first. With my second, I was trying to induce labor by pumping, just using a breast pump, you know, pumping out all that good colostrum, and all of a sudden I felt a really intense, like almost a dull pain, really low. Like I can't even point to where it was. Like it was just really internal and really low, kind of like below my belly and into my back. Just it was interesting. It's different depending on the position of your baby, and I mean it depends on your body and all kinds of different things. Do you feel like you weren't taken seriously in labor and delivery because of your age? I don't think it had anything to do with my age. I think it had to do with my first time. So with my first birth, I mean, I obviously had no idea what to expect, what the feelings were like when I was farther along, when I wasn't farther along. I was so clueless. So we went into the hospital and I was in a lot of pain by the time we got to the hospital. And the nurses, they were very calm, they were very sweet, very nice. They treated me with respect, but they really took their time. I don't think they believed I was very far along because I was a first timer. It's not that they didn't take me seriously, they definitely weren't in a rush. So it was really funny. By the time they came to check me, I was 9 centimeters dilated. My water broke right then and there, and then they sprang into action. The second time I went in, Zach, he was fantastic. He spoke for me because I couldn't really speak for myself at that point. The second we walked into the hospital, he was like, my wife has very fast labors and she's in labor and she's gonna give birth soon. Just like that, the nurses sprung up. They were running to get things ready. Like there was no delay whatsoever. They took me very seriously and I'm very thankful because that was a fast labor. Did you think during the harder contractions that you'll never want to give birth again? Absolutely. I think it was not even so much during the contractions, because during the contractions, the only thought I could come up with was get this thing out of me. But it was more so just after birth is when those thoughts ran through my head. Especially after my first, I was like, oh man, I don't think I can do that again. It was beautiful and magical, but oh my. The pain the first time around was much worse than the second, and even then, my thought wasn't, I can never do this again. My thought was, I don't want to do this again for a long time. Which birth was harder and why? My first birth was harder by far. Not that it was a very, very hard birth because it was very fast, but because it was so fast, it was very hard on my body. The contractions went from like 2 to a 10 in a matter of seconds. Like I didn't have time to get ready, to build up, to, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in longer labors, you at least have time to wrap your head around everything that's going on and to figure out how to handle the pain. If you have more time and more contractions, you can understand your body better and know, okay, when I sit like this, the pain is better. When someone like holds my hands this way, it makes the pain less. With my labor being so fast and so sudden and I had no idea what to expect or what was going on, I panicked a little bit, I'll be honest. I wanted so badly to have a natural unmedicated birth. When I was laying there waiting to be checked, I remember thinking, if I'm not even close yet, I am getting an epidural. I don't care how badly I want to have a natural birth. I can't do this. Little did I know I was in transition and I was about to give birth, but wow, that birth was hard, mostly because I didn't know what was happening. How did your second labor and birth compare emotionally, not just physically, to the first? That's a good question. I mean, with my second labor, I knew what was gonna happen and I knew how I felt at certain stages. So I was a lot more relaxed and calm in that way. I was also practicing some breathing techniques, which I'll talk about a bit more later in this video. But that really helped to just calm me down. I kind of knew what to expect. I was not panicked at all. In fact, I remember being just like weirdly super aware of everything going on around me. And I can't take credit for that. I know a lot of that was peace given from the Lord. It was not from me. There's no way I myself could have been that calm just on my own. I had the Lord's help. It was just so very clear and evident that He was there with me in that room, and it was so amazing. So with my second, I was very calm. I knew what was coming. I knew what to expect. By the time we made it to the hospital, I wasn't in as much pain as I was the first time, so I was just a lot more calm. By the time I was in transition, I was still walking around the hospital. Like, I was doing good. I was just so emotionally ready to have this baby. With my first, like I said before, I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know what was happening. I was scared and panicked, and we barely made it to the hospital on time. So all of that combined, I was in a very like frantic, panicky state. Overall, it was a great experience, but comparing it to my second, that one was a lot more just like frantic, scary, and it was early. My daughter was 10 days early. My son was a few days late. I thought I was ready to have the baby. I don't think I was fully ready. Just so much to take in all at once. So physically, it was more painful. It was more scary, my first one. The second one, it was a lot more calm and peaceful. And it was actually less painful. And I think a big part of that is because with my daughter, my water had broken, but it hadn't like fully burst. I guess it was just really, really, really slowly leaking for a little while. But with my son, my water broke like right before I started pushing, which was like the weirdest experience. Like, I remember just laying in the hospital bed and all of a sudden I just felt water shooting out of me. I heard a pop and it was just like, psh, shot out onto the sheet that was covering me. And then that's when the contractions started getting really bad. The water kind of acts as a cushion from the pain, which is really interesting. So I think that's a big reason why my second birth was a lot more relaxed. What worried you about going into labor and how did that change the second time around? Here's the interesting thing. With my first birth, I was not worried because I didn't know what to expect. I did not know what was coming. I was just super excited to have this baby, and that was that. But with my second, I had a lot of fear and anxiety surrounding the birth. Not that I had a horrible experience the first time, but just because it was painful and I knew I had fast labors and I didn't know what that meant for me, if we'd be able to get to the hospital on time or not, and it was just kind of scary. I was also mentally not fully myself during my second pregnancy, and so that led to a lot of anxiety as well. And I think a big reason why I was so anxious the second time around was because I knew what was coming. I knew how bad the pain was. You would think that would give you peace of mind knowing what was coming, but honestly, innocence is bliss. Regardless if you have a really great birth experience or a really terrible birth experience, it is scary preparing yourself for labor the second time around, but I promise you, you'll do great. How in the world did you remain so calm in your birth vlog having a natural birth? So if you have not seen my birth vlog, it is by far my most favorite video I've ever made. I will leave it linked here. It'll be down below. In that video, I can't count the number of times people have commented and said, wow, how are you so calm? I pretty much didn't say anything or even make a sound during the entire labor. Even when pushing, even in transition, nothing. A big reason for that is I practiced a breathing technique. Focusing on the breathing and counting really helped distract me from the contractions and the pain. It also really helped to just like keep my mind off things, keep me calm. The breathing technique that I used was, I think it was in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and out 2, 3, 4. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out 2, 3, 4. And that's what I would say to myself in my head as I was having contraction. I would breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And it was the biggest game changer. It was amazing. But again, I cannot take credit for the peace and the calm that I felt. Breathing most definitely helped, but also the Lord was with me so much in that birth. It was honestly a very surreal experience. How normal is tearing, and did it happen to you? Tearing is so normal. In fact, it's less normal not to tear. So if you tear, don't worry. Pretty much every woman tears, but I guess I'm that exception. I did not tear, so I cannot give you any advice or insight onto tearing or what it feels like or the pain afterwards or recovering. I can't give you any insight on that. I can give you insight on abrasions. I had abrasions the first time around. Not fun, but I never had to get stitches. Abrasions are what my doctor described as like little tiny paper cuts everywhere, or like really bad road rash everywhere. Kind of like everything started ripping, if that makes sense. It's not a lovely picture, so if you're scared of birth and pain, don't picture that. Did you do anything to try and prevent tearing? Yes, I did. Basically, the only thing that I did to help with tearing was I took evening primrose oil. I took it orally. I don't know if taking it orally helps with tearing, but every night for, I think it started around 37 or 38 weeks, I took a tablet and I poked a hole in it with a sanitary needle, and then I just stuck it right up there right before bed. I'd put a panty liner on before I went to bed because throughout the night it will leak out. That oil really helps to just like soften things up. I don't know for sure, but I think that really helped to prevent tearing. I have some very knowledgeable friends who I will be speaking with the next time I'm about to give birth because they know a lot more about this stuff. So I will one day in the future let you know more about that. Maybe a TMI, but pooping during pushing, it's a thing? Yes. Oh yes. It most definitely is a thing because when you push like you're pooping. That is what the doctors and nurses are going to tell you. You push like you're taking a really big poop. I was actually pretty convinced with my second birth that I did poop on the table. Apparently I didn't, or at least Zach just doesn't want to tell me that I did. I don't know. I personally have never pooped on the table. My body naturally clears itself out when I go into labor, if you know what I mean. Like 2 seconds after I got my first contraction, I had to use the bathroom real bad, which I'm glad for because it just means that I didn't have to poop on the table. Thoughts on natural at-home birth? I think it's fantastic, and I think if that's what you want, you should do it. You should go for it. I admire people who have natural home births. For me, I'm just a little bit weary of it. I'm a little bit scared of it just because I do have a history of hemorrhaging, and to hemorrhage at home, just a little bit scary. Or if something were to go wrong with the baby or whatever else, we would have to be rushed to the hospital via ambulance, and it would just be a very traumatic experience. So for me, the only reason that I won't likely have a home birth, or at least not a planned one, is because of those fear factors. That, and it's basically impossible to get a midwife around here. Like, there is a very long waiting list, and the chances of me getting a midwife are very slim. So we just feel comfortable being in the hospital. It's familiar to us. We trust the nurses there. We've had good experiences there, and I got nothing bad to say about it. I mean, for the most part. The only thing that makes me wonder if I should be looking into a natural home birth next time is because I have such fast labors and we live like half an hour almost 45 minutes, depending on traffic, away from the hospital. And with my history, it makes me nervous that we will one day have a baby on the side of the road. How was Zach? Do you or does he have any advice for the dads? He's not here right now. But I will be filming a new series soon about topics like marriage, birth, pregnancy, fatherhood, all that stuff. I'm going to be filming a series from my point of view and from his point of view. So if you want to see that, subscribe, stick around. I think it'll be a really fun series and he is totally for it. He wants to share his perspective on things, which I think would be really fun. But my personal advice for the dads is just listen to what your wife says. For me, one thing I really liked that Zach did was that he spoke up for me. Because when I'm in pain and I'm concentrating on a contraction, I can't answer the questions that the nurses are asking me, and I can't talk, I can't communicate, I can't tell the nurses what I want or what I need. And so he is my voice when I'm in labor. If there are any dads to be out there who is watching this, talk to your wife beforehand and get a very clear idea and understanding of what her birth plan, her ideal birth plan would be. Ask her questions about the birth, what she wants, what she prefers, if she wants music, if she wants an epidural, if she doesn't, because you will likely need to be her voice when she's in labor. Have a very clear understanding of what she wants and make sure you are both in agreement of what the birth plan should look like. Other than that, it really depends on the person. Like, some women really want their men to speak affirmations to them, to tell them that they're doing a really good job. Some women don't want their men to speak at all. So I guess my advice would just be listen to your wife and do what she asks you to do. Do anything she asks you to do because she needs you right now. What was the hardest part of both your labors and what is a must-have thing to have with you? The hardest part about both my labors was honestly the transition. Like, not even the pushing. Honestly, pushing was kind of relieving because I could actually do something about the pain, but the hardest part was just those few contractions before pushing. Those are the most painful, the most intense. That's when you start to get the thoughts of, oh no, I can't do this, I can't do this. You can do it, you got this. But that's when those thoughts start running through your head. My must-have thing, honestly, is nothing. Because for me, basically it was labor starts, get your butt into the van, drive to the hospital, get into the hospital, get checked, give birth. Like, that's how it's been for me. My labors were all like just go, go, go. So there was never like a thing that I had with me that really helped. It was just the breathing technique that really helped. Unless, can I count Zach as my must-have thing? Does he count? Modesty in birth or everything out there? Everything out there. Who cares? Nobody cares. And that's coming from someone who's not even comfortable wearing a bathing suit to the beach. I'm more modest in the way that I dress, but when it comes to giving birth, like, I don't care. Actually, kind of funny. In my second birth, after I got checked, obviously my pants were off as I was getting checked. But after I was checked, they were getting me to a wheelchair so that they could wheel me to the room. Came in holding like a hospital gown. They asked if I wanted to put it on and I said no. And I just got into the chair and they're like, you need to have, you know, something covering you, and I just did not care. I didn't care. Is there anything you didn't expect to happen that did happen, or vice versa? Yeah, basically labor was nothing what I expected it to be whatsoever. I didn't really have any expectations going in, to be honest, because I just had no idea. I was clueless. One thing that really sticks out that I was so just like shocked that it actually happened, I had never heard of this before. When it's time, your body will start pushing on its own and there's no way to hold it back. It is the wildest thing, and I had no idea that happened. I had no idea. So in my first birth, by the time I got to the hospital, I was basically ready to push. I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel that as I was being checked, but by the time we got to the birthing room, I had to lay there trying my best not to push while I waited for the doctor to arrive, and my body was just like, it was doing it all on its own and I could not stop it. It was crazy. The pain really scares me. How is it as a memory and process? The pain is scary, and like I said, after giving birth, I didn't think I could do it again. But now, looking back, I don't remember the pain. I mean, I remember the pain, but like, I can't imagine what the pain was like anymore. That memory is gone. But the memories that do remain are just the most beautiful, heartwarming memories holding my baby for the first time. Those, that feeling of just pure and utter joy. Right now, a year after birth, even like 6 months after birth, those are the only memories that really, really remain. Can you talk about birthing the placenta? Not many share that part. That's actually a very good point. Not many people talk about that. So it kind of depends on your doctor. If you have a really bad doctor, they will probably try just pulling it out. That's a big no-no. Do not let them pull it out. It could damage the placenta. It could cause you to hemorrhage. Not a good situation. So my first experience after Eloise was placed into my arms for the first time, and I just like completely forgot about everything else in the world, and it was just the most beautiful moment of my life. I remember just holding her, admiring her. Zach was crying beside me, and then my doctor was like, okay, now just give me a couple more pushes. And at first I was like, wait, what? Why? But then I realized, oh yeah, the placenta. So that I just pushed a couple of times. She kind of like guided it out, and that was that. The second time was kind of the same situation. I was holding Theo. She just asked me to push a few times. It came out. I actually saw the placenta the second time, and it was crazy. It was huge. Birthing the placenta really isn't that crazy. It's just a couple pushes and a little bit of a relief when it comes out. And that's it. It's not painful. How would you describe the feeling? Like the feeling of holding your child for the first time, or the feeling of actually pushing the child out? I'll try and explain both, but this could be very hard because it's very hard to explain. So the feeling of actually giving birth, in a way it almost feels like a really big poop that doesn't want to come out. So when the head is crowning, most women will describe it as a ring of fire, and it's fairly accurate. It feels like it's not possible. Like it's just not coming out. There's no way this is gonna happen. It's not. There's no way. But somehow you find it in you and you continue pushing. My motivation was get this thing out of me because this hurts. And the only thing that's gonna make it stop hurting is if this is out of me. So let's just do it. So when it's crowning, you hit a point where you feel like it's impossible, and then all of a sudden the head is just there. It's out. And then everything from there is just smooth sailing. The doctors will likely tell you to stop pushing for a moment. With Eloise, she had the cord wrapped around her neck. So my doctor told me to stop pushing, and she unwrapped the cord. And from there it was just like one more push, everything came out, and it was just such a relief. That last push is just the biggest relief in the world. And then the feeling of seeing your child for the first time. Oh my goodness. It is the most beautiful moment. You will never experience that much joy in your life ever again. I would go through birth 1,000 times over just for that moment. It is so beautiful. You realize that you just made and birthed a human. Like, this person was inside of you for 9 months, and it's a whole new person. It's a new person you've never met before, but you feel like you've known them for forever. Oh, it's the most beautiful thing. What are your regrets about birth, or anything you would have done differently? So I actually do have some regrets. My births were fabulous, fantastic experiences, but when I'm in that moment, my only focus is getting it out of me. And I didn't really stop to enjoy it. So I was convinced the second time around, I was like, I want to feel the head. I want to see it in the mirror. I want to like get the full experience, you know? But when it came down to it, I just pushed. I couldn't stop. I just needed it out of me. My biggest regret is not like feeling, like reaching my hand down there and feeling the head. I did get a mirror the second time around, but it all happened so fast that they didn't have time to set it up, which was kind of sad. It'd be amazing to actually pull your baby out on your own. I don't know if that's something that they would let me do. I might ask next time. But also in that moment, I don't know if I would fully trust myself to do that. One thing that would be an absolute dream for me, but I don't think will ever happen because my labors are so fast, is to have a water birth. Water births just seem so beautiful and so peaceful, and I don't know. Did you have any weird random thoughts during birth? Yes, not the first time, because the first time I was just panicking and in pain. But the second time around, I was really calm and just really weirdly aware of everything that was going on around me. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm hungry. Why am I hungry? During the whole labor with Theo, I was just hungry and just aware of everything around me, which is so different from the first time. Because the first time I was panicking, I was scared, I was in pain, I was nauseous, but not with Theo's birth. I was hungry. I think that's where I'm gonna end this video. Let me know if you want me to make a part 2 to this, another girl talk about birth. I could talk about birth forever because it's just the most amazing experience. So if you want me to do a part 2, let me know in the comments below. I'm also gonna be doing a video on the first 48 hours after giving birth, that first like freshly postpartum stage and getting to know your new baby. And then I'm also going to do another video on postpartum, the first like 6 weeks to 3 months-ish postpartum. Let me know if there's any other topics you'd like me to touch on regarding like girl talks, any other topics that aren't maybe related to birth or pregnancy. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you are still here, thank you for sticking around. If you want to follow me over on Instagram to ask me questions for future videos, I will leave the handle down below. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.